Hey world, what up? NBA season is going to kick off here in a day or so. We're all wrapping up for a 72 game season, and I'm excited about it. I know you guys are as well, so let's jump in on the topic of discussion for today. The Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers. Who is favored to come out of both the East and Western Conference? Let alone, are we going to look at a 2021 NBA Finals to where the NBA is going to line up LeBron James against Kevin Durant Part 4? Is this the year to where LeBron James could repeat with the Lakers with Anthony Davis? Let alone if Kevin Durant can win a championship away from Golden State. A lot of storylines are in the making. A lot of storylines are in the play. As my position as of right now, I do have the LA Lakers coming out of the Western Conference and my favorites to win the 2021 NBA championship. In the Eastern Conference right now, I have two teams that I expect to either be in the conference finals as well as to make it to the NBA Finals in the East. So let alone, I have the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. The Milwaukee Bucks for me right now, I don't expect that to be the case. The Philadelphia 76ers, they're not there as of right now. The Miami Heat are still going to be a nice team, but the NBA is not going to allow the Miami Heat to go 2 years in a row. And the Toronto Raptors are somewhat falling apart. So basically right now, I'm looking at LA versus possibly Boston or Brooklyn. So we got Kevin Durant and a healthy Kyrie Irving together on a team with the rookie head coach Steve Nash. We're going to dive here on First Things First on FS1 Sports Show and go a little more deeper in this discussion. And of course, I'll give my take on this.
Likely do you think for KD and Kyrie and the Nets this season? An NBA title or let's call it or disaster?
Well, Jenna,
So the question is NBA Finals or disaster for the Brooklyn Nets? I'm going to state more towards an NBA Finals. They're not going to win the championship in 2021. I already stated this. This is the redemption and glorified years for LeBron James. Now, for Brooklyn, they can come out of the East. They can win. They can not win it. They can make it to the championship round in the finals. I'm not sure if that's going to be this year. I'm most likely expecting in 2022 the Brooklyn Nets to make their first finals appearance with Kevin Durant and Kyrie. I think right now they're probably going to give it to the Boston Celtics to rejuvenate an LA versus Boston NBA Finals matchup that usually happens once every decade or so. And plus, still, the Lakers and the Celtics are both tied at 17 championships all time. Now, this would be pretty much straight up in front of the faces of the masses that 17 versus 17, who's going to win? They will give it to the Lakers to have the most championships all time. That's a little bit jumping the gun. But for the Brooklyn Nets, I feel more comfortable in 2022. They for sure will make an NBA Finals. Not going to say they're going to win it or not, but I'll leave it at that on that part. But if it's either NBA Finals or disaster, NBA Finals.
the question was an NBA Finals appearance or disaster, I would go with NBA Finals appearance. I do think this Nets team can be the second best team in the league. I don't see them beating the Lakers. I think the Lakers are just superior. Now, I'd be foolish to sit here and say there's not a reasonable chance of disaster. With Kyrie's history of injuries, with his history of locker room issues with teammates, with his history of making bizarre and odd comments, there's certainly a chance of disaster. Heck, now that he thinks he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and wants to post up 8 times a game, you have to leave open the door for disaster. However, I heard 3 things yesterday that made me optimistic about this Nets team having success. One, Kyrie did speak to the pawns in the media, and he was calm and relaxed and comfortable. Number 2, he took back his statement from months ago about the Nets not needing a head coach, and he gave Steve Nash the respect he deserves. Number 3, when he unveiled the new nickname, 7-Eleven, I like that nickname, even though it's just kind of a glorified bodega, but still, it's a great nickname. 7-Eleven, notice.
You got to watch out for Kyrie Irving. He is an introvert. Before the Boston Celtics game a couple days ago, for a pregame before the game came off, he came there alone, and he got some myrrh, he got some fragrance, and he started throwing it around the whole arena. And you know what, Kyrie Irving, he's part of the Masonic Jew enterprise. You know, in everything that's going on in the background, that Mr. Kyrie Irving has Illuminati ties. He does have those tattoos with the triangle, with the eyes. Pretty much same thing kind of Luka Doncic has seen, if you can see his tattoos. Kyrie Irving is in the know from these background cults. You got to watch out. I'm not going to go too deep in this channel when it comes to these players, but there's a couple of players out there that are in the know, that are in part of these cults. They have connections. They have connections to Jay-Z. They're still part of this as well. The Freemasons, watch out for that. Kyrie Irving is part of that. Basically what I'm saying is Kyrie Irving was part of the witchcraft whenever he started to go ahead and explore with his mentor, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is still in that same situation when he was in the league and out of the league. Now, Kobe Bryant, he's ready. He's gone. That's done with. Kyrie Irving is still taking on those same practices. Kobe Bryant would use magic, he would use spirits, and he would use the quote-unquote mama mentality to go more deeper into things. That snake, that veneration. Kyrie Irving, you really got to watch out for him when it comes to it. I don't think there's going to be a disaster when it comes to Brooklyn within those measures. Kevin Durant is healthy. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. They've been both labeled and titled as toxic. They're two superstar players that are coming together. Let me backtrack on that. Kevin Durant is a superstar. Kyrie Irving is a star player. They're two star players coming together. They both have enough talent. Isolation basketball. They're two top 15 players in the league. They'll get it through. They will win one championship in their career together as a dynamic duo. It will happen. It will. But at the end of the day, Kyrie Irving, he's going to have some statements towards the media that are going to be outlandish and out there. He will present himself that way because he is not part of this AAU. He's not part of this normal liberal society. That's not Kyrie Irving. He's more on his own left, his own propaganda, which is a little more deeper, but I'll leave it at that.
Kyrie is second. Okay, Durant, number 7, is first. Nets fans have to hope that means Kyrie understands the pecking order. KD number 1, I'm number 2.
Sorry.
So look.
No, it just means 7-Eleven, just like the gas station. It's just like a play on words. Like Paul George changed his number from 24 to 13, PG-13. It's just a nickname. It gets things going. It keeps things flowing. Kyrie and Kevin Durant, 7-Eleven. I like it. It's cool.
I'm going to say the Nets have a better chance of being Eastern Conference champions than they do of having a disaster.
I really don't like this question. What's more likely, an NBA title or disaster? They got a good shot at winning the championship this season. It's not, it's not a high percentage that's going to happen. They got a chance. They can come out of the Eastern Conference. They can do it. But you're not going to beat the LA Lakers if you're going to meet them in the finals. That's not going to happen. So I'm leaning more towards an NBA title than disaster. But I say this in a couple of my videos. I expect worst case scenario that they will reach the conference finals. Best case scenarios is they'll lose in the NBA finals to the LA Lakers.
Okay,
wild
that's a very
take in there.
interesting take. It's also not the question. The question is title, not Eastern Conference title. It's NBA title or disaster. I think it's also important to define disaster. Would you agree that anything short of a conference finals appearance would be a disaster? If they have the same playoff run the Clippers did last year, that would be a disaster for this team, right? If they're in the second round and out, given the expectations.
Well, I mean, if you're going to lose to a Boston Celtics or Milwaukee Bucks team, and if you're all healthy in like the second round, it's not a disaster. It is a shame on them. It is an embarrassment because no way that you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving that you're going to lose to a young Boston Celtics team in the second round. That should not be the case. I expect them to reach the conference finals to either play the Milwaukee Bucks or the Boston Celtics in the conference finals. That's what I expect.
Because I think that would be a disaster for them. Go ahead, and then I'll give my take.
I think I'll say quickly, I think it would obviously be a disappointment, but disaster depends on how it ends. If it ends, if they finish losing the second round because Kyrie's caused problems or Durant and Kyrie didn't get along, that's a disaster.
It's all different.
But if they could lose in a way where in the next year you're optimistic and think, okay, it just took a year to get it together. they'll do that.
So here's my real concern for the Nets. I think they are going to be very, very similar to last year's Mavs. An absolutely unstoppable offense that can't stop anybody on the other end. And when you look at the East,
Well, offensively, yes, but the Dallas Mavericks play in a unit. Luka Doncic is very unselfish, and they play in the Rick Carlisle system. When you're looking at the Brooklyn Nets here for 2021, it's not really going to be the Steve Nash system per se. It's going to be more of isolation ball of Kyrie and Kevin Durant. And everyone else is just pretty much just going to be a catch and shoot type player or a pick and roll. Something along those lines. Basically, the whole offense will be run through by playing through their star, either Kyrie and or Kevin Durant. They're both going to average, I expect both of them to average at least 28 or 29 a game in the 2021 NBA season. They should rack up around 30 points each by the system they're going to be playing for that dynamic duo. Kevin Durant loves playing isolation ball. That really irritated him when he went to Golden State and they played too much as a team system, which they've been known to do. And Kevin Durant wanted to join part of that, but it was too much for him. He's too catered. He has his old habits of playing isolation basketball. Pretty much come off the dribble, pull up for mid-range jumper, contested, it goes in. That's Kevin Durant's game at the end of the day. He likes to thrive off that. But if you're like Steph Curry and Klay, you like to keep the ball moving, you like to come off screen, elevator screens, and pull up one dribble, three, along those lines. The Brooklyn Nets are not going to be an offensive unit like that. It's going to be more offensive basketball due to isolation plays, which is going to be actually fun to see. Kyrie and Kevin Durant thrive off that, so I'm not going to knock them too much on that.
Milwaukee, a great defense. Boston and Philly, very, very good defenses. I think Toronto's going to take a step back, but they were the number 2 defense in basketball last year.
Toronto will take a step back. They'll probably finish off as a 6 seed. They will be bounced in the first round of the playoffs. This is a time period to where they are kind of not falling off, but they're really going to have to retool themselves to go for a new direction. Keep the young core, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. Then, of course, you still have Kyle Lowry still around. But they'll have to retool, and we're going to see that come across. But just wanted to mention that real quick. And they did lose Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol.
Miami, a very good defense. By the way, I just listed 5 teams, plus the Nets. 2 of those teams, forget round 2, are going out in round 1. That's just the math. And so I think the defense is going to be a work in progress at best, which Brandon puts such a massive weight on the shoulders of Kevin Durant. Now, I think Kevin Durant can walk back into the league and be the second best player in basketball. I think he can. I need to see it, but I think he can. But as we've talked about, there's being a great player, and then there's also the leadership part. And I think KD can be a great leader, but he hasn't had to be a leader in nearly 5 years. He was never the leader in Golden State because that wasn't his role. So he's got to be the leader.
Bingo. Golden State, he was not the leader. Steph Curry was the leader of that team. Even though Draymond Green was more of a loudmouth, Steph Curry was the leader. He was the calming force. When there was somewhat chaos, which was very rare in the Golden State era, they would still look to Steph Curry because he brought that presence. He brought that energy. He brought the vibes. Kevin Durant has never been an alpha. He's been a beta player. He's not an alpha. He does not have that personality trait. We can go a little more further deeper. That comes more into the divine feminine of him being raised by his mother and having that feminine energy. Kind of same thing with LeBron, etc., etc. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but for example, with Michael Jordan, he was alpha, he was masculine. Kevin Durant does not perceive with that. Steph Curry is an alpha. He presents himself as structured, ordered. When chaos comes around, he does not explode. He does not freak out as much. So that's why we see Steph Curry as a masculine. So with Kevin Durant, with Russell Westbrook, Westbrook was an alpha. Now, his game wasn't as a number 1 star player to be an alpha, but his demeanor was. And even though he still had some chaotic energy from time to time, it was a little more different on that. Basically, what I'm saying is now Kevin Durant, coming from the Thunder to the Warriors and now with the Nets, there's a lot of pressure for him to win one championship with Brooklyn to show him and the world that he can be the number 1 guy. He can lead a team to a championship and be that number 1 guy as not a quote-unquote alpha, but the main guy to do it. Because we all know when he joined the Warriors and he won those championships, he was not the reason why they won it. The Warriors were still overwhelming favorites over the field by a long shot in 2017 and 2018 before Kevin Durant, or if you were to take out Kevin Durant. So right now, KD is aware of this. That's why he elected to leave Golden State and join the Brooklyn Nets. And he brought his dynamic duo pair, his best buddy, Kyrie Irving, alongside him. And I've stated, guys, the Brooklyn Nets are going to win one championship in the next 3 seasons. They will win a championship. They will get at least 2 finals appearances. Let me cross that off. Not at least. They will get 2 finals appearances. They're going to win one championship with Brooklyn together with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Now, when I expect that to happen, I expect them to win a championship in either 2022 or 2023. It really depends on that. Kevin Durant is 32. Kyrie Irving is still young as well, but reaching around in the 30s. So there's going to be a lot of push and shove to make that happen.
Probably got to be their best defensive player as well as their best offensive player, and he's coming off an Achilles. It's just a massive weight on Durant's shoulders, Brandon, going into this year. So my answer would be it's more likely they don't make a conference finals than they win the NBA title.
I'm going to give them a year with the condensed schedule, Broussard, and I think Steve Nash is going to limit both Kyrie and Durant's minutes. I think you made a lot of good points and one wild point. The fact that they named themselves 7-11 because Kyrie has put himself in the second position because that was the pecking order of sort of usage rate rather than just it has a good ring to it. I'm going to give you a chance here to walk that back and acknowledge that he's just making it a brand statement of, hey, it's 7-Eleven, we're always open, more so than it is a wink towards the usage rate plan for the Brooklyn Nets this year. Go ahead, Broussard.
Well, I must admit, if the name was 11-7, he probably would go with 11-7. I get you on that. But I do think that he has a respect. And I know he respect. You can't help but respect LeBron James, okay? However, I think Kyrie has more of a respect for Kevin Durant's game. I might be wrong, but I think he has more of a respect for Kevin Durant's skills than he had for LeBron's. I think he looks at Durant as, I mean, this dude is 7 feet tall, wildly, I mean, as Brandon said, he's arguably the best scorer we've ever seen. Look at what he can do. And whereas LeBron obviously was tremendously skilled or is, I think you can also say in Kyrie's mind, well, he's so big too and fast and athletic, whereas Durant is strictly just straight up skilled.
Yeah, when it comes to Kevin Durant,